Let's look ahead to Friday. There are 10 games on, which players we may or may not be streaming, some injury updates, and of course, M. Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and this is the Microsoft Teams of all podcasts. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky, joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Also, go to lockedondaily.com and get the best newsletter for your favorite NBA team. Sign up, get it stuffed into your box 5 days a week. We're here to talk about Friday's games. It is National Essay Day, so if you're ready to write something, get your words out, your thoughts down on paper, today's your day to celebrate or to hate on an essay. That's cool as well. There are 10 games on. So we're going to talk about those games. We'll start with a little bit of schedule play, talking about the ways that we can manipulate all of this stuff. Now, this is a 10-game day. For some of you, it will be non-streamable. For some of you, it will be streamable. And like I've said many times this week, and I'll keep saying it because you don't listen to every show, and that's cool, is that my original quality game designation was 9 games or fewer, and I'm bumping that to 10. I've been doing a lot more work on that to try and figure out what the right number is, and I think it's probably somewhere between 10 and 11 versus the 9-10 we had before. So I'm going to be making 10 the cutoff. So in future weeks, a 10-game day, I will count as a streaming day. Again, I would love to know, look at your own rosters for Friday and tell me whether you actually have an ability to stream or you have to make a start-sit decision. So if you add someone, can you play them? Actually, what I more want to know if you don't have the ability just to add someone on Friday. So I think a lot of you will be able to stream someone, but I want to know if you can't. If your roster is full on Friday and there's no point in you adding someone because I'll sit on your bench, let me know. That's what I want to hear from. I want to hear from all of you at all points, of course. Let's talk back-to-backs Friday into Saturday. Saturday's a very streamable day. Here we've got 3 teams, the Nets, the Pistons, and the Grizzlies. And interestingly, this just came through right now, is that Cam Thomas is off the injury report. So Thomas is going to play on Friday, it seems, and then he'll probably sit on Saturday. And that's going to throw, obviously, some cats amongst the pigeons in terms of how the rotations look. Now, I think Thomas will be very limited. Early on, I think they'll play him like 23, 24 minutes, to be my guess. No Russell, no Clowney still, and we'll see what they do. The Grizzlies, I don't think we got back-to-back rest risks. I don't think the Pistons will either, although the Pistons are in a pretty heavy period of their schedule, and at times during the season, we've seen a random Cade Cunningham knee soreness sort of scenario where, because he's carrying such a huge load, they just do be cautious of his body, especially considering they are hoping that they're going to make some sort of a playoff run. Not a playoff run in terms of make the playoffs, because they're going to do that. But like, can they get through with the first round? So I wouldn't be shocked if randomly you get a Cade questionable tag, which, annoyingly, the Pistons often drop very late in the process. So just keep an eye on that. I'm not predicting that it's going to happen, but I am not going to be stunned if it does happen. Let's get chunky. We'll go Friday through to Tuesday, the next 5 days. Which players have availability with 3 games on that might be useful if you're trying to preserve your ads. Yeah, it's been rough from Quentin Grimes in Philadelphia, but I don't expect Joel Embiid is out. We got the news today, as expected, that Eric Gordon's going to be out for the rest of the season. I think Embiid's news is going to follow. I actually think Kyle Lowry's news is going to follow at some point as well. So Grimes is going to lock in as a starter, but he barely played in the last game, and Justin Edwards returned. I don't know what they're going to do with Grimey, but I do think that he's at least worth looking at. I've got Kelly Olynyk on this list. Now, Olynyk is not playing Thursday, but he will play Friday, I'm guessing, unless they decide they're just going to, the 2 starts was enough. So I think 3 games, 5 nights for Olynyk is possible. Same with Lonzo Ball, who was really good in the last game. Same with Bol Bol, although I don't know what they'll do with Bol. I would love to be able to know. We'll get more of an idea on Thursday in terms of, was it just a Jaren Jackson Jr. matchup stuff with him starting? Was it a Devin Booker foul out scenario? Was it a overtime special only? And does he go back and play 10 minutes? I don't know. But like I've said millions of times, at this point of the year, if someone does have top 50 upside, you take the chance on it. I've got Jackson Hayes there with his 3 games in 5 nights, and same with Dracaris Levert, who has 3 games in 5 nights starting on Friday. Remember, though, the Hawks play Friday, and they're off on the weekend. So if you're looking for this individual week, the end of week 19, that's a terrible schedule for the Hawks. But they've got 3 games in 5 nights, so be aware that is how it plays out. Every individual team schedule is going to be different. We know this, and you've got to sort of dig into the minutiae of that. Let's go through some individual injury statuses we need to be aware of for Friday. There have been a couple of additions to that, which I'll touch on at the end. Jaylen Brown missed the last game with what they were calling a bone bruise in his quadriceps, which again is just a physical, anatomical impossibility. It cannot happen. You might have a bone bruise in the general quad region, but the quadriceps is a muscle. And guess what you can't have a bone bruise in? A muscle. Because you know why? A muscle is not a bone. So I guess they were telling us that maybe either there was a quadricep bruise or there was a femur bruise. You can't have a quadriceps bone bruise. But I know that is being pedantic, but I think it's important because a bone bruise is a lot different than getting as I would call it, a corky, or as Americans apparently would call it, a Charlie horse. A little bit different. Darius Garland's missed a couple of games with a hip injury. I expect he plays. Denny Avdia is officially questionable, but the Ides of March, we're not there yet. This is the 28th of February, but Jeremy Grant popped up. Oh, did he now? Okay. All right, Jeremy Grant popping up on the injury report, huh? How interesting. Sure. They also, by the way, the Celtics just dropped Drew Holiday onto the injury report as questionable with a mallet finger. Is that why he's been bad? All right. We'll see about that one then. Yeah, so Jeremy Grant is being popped onto the injury report. What are they actually calling it? Right knee soreness. Oh, no, really? Oh, no. Okay, that knee that's been sore for the last 4 Marches in a row. Is this the beginning of nonsense? We'll find out. Karl-Anthony Towns missed the last game due to knee issue. What are they calling it? Patella tendinopathy. No idea whether he's going to be available or not. Shout out to Tibbs. Jalen Smith has passed the NBA's concussion protocol. I think he will play, but he is questionable at the moment. Ayodosumu, there was a chance he returned last game, so he's questionable now for this one. I think he'll be available as well. What we do know is that Vooch is doubtful, so he won't play. The next grouping of injuries to pay attention to here, we've got Scott Barnes, who missed the last game. That sort of came out of nowhere. I don't really think anything happened, shockingly enough. I think that is going to be relatively commonplace down the stretch here for the Raptors, so just be aware that there'll be some games off for Barnesy and Barrett as we move forward and quickly. Brad Beal popped up on the injury report. Okay. Not really sure what happened there, but that's okay. He popped up on the injury report on the back-to-back, so we're going to see how much he plays there. I've got Zion Williamson there because it is a back-to-back and Zion's playing Thursday, so he's not going to play Friday is my guess. And then in Minnesota, we know that they said Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert are out and they're coming back soon, but it said not in the near future. So let's just say they're out the next 3 games or so, Gobert and Randle. But DiVincenzo and Edwards are both questionable on Thursday, and I would expect if DiVincenzo in particular plays on Thursday, he won't play on Friday, so we'll just watch that status. And Norman Powell as well for the Clippers, who has not played since the All-Star break, put him on an injury watch. Then we also go to the Utah Jazz guys. I have no idea whether these guys are going to play or not. Collins, Markkanen, and Sexton. Got to keep an eye on Clarkson. Got to keep an eye on Kessler. But this game is against Minnesota. And I think, and we've seen a somewhat rigid pattern. It hasn't been incredibly rigid, but it's been somewhat rigid. Which, somewhat rigid is probably not the right term. We're talking malleable or flexible in terms of their strategy of sitting guys against bad teams. They play against Minnesota on Friday, the Jazz. Sunday, they've got the Pelicans. So Kessler, Clarkson, Markkanen, Collins, Sexton, forget about it, not playing. Then they have the Pistons. Then they have the Wizards and Raptors. All right, so no chance. Then they have the Sixers, not playing. Celtics, maybe. Memphis, probably. Then Toronto, no. Minnesota, yes. Chicago, no. Washington, no. Boston, yes. Cleveland, yes. Memphis, yes. Houston, yes. Denver, yes. A 5-game stretch against good teams, although don't think they play all those because there's back-to-backs in there, so maybe. Then you got Charlotte, no. Houston, probably yes. Indiana, probably yes. Pacers, no. Portland, no. And they finish off with OKC and Minnesota. So as you can see, probably half of the games are against bad teams for the Jazz. And that's going to mean that I'm guessing that a selection of Collins, Markkanen, Sexton, Clarkson, Kessler are sitting those games. Whether they all sit every game or not, I don't know. But that's how I expect it. The other injuries that just popped up on the injury report, I talked about Jeremy Grant being there and Cam Thomas being available, but Bam Adebayo and Andrew Wiggins both appeared as questionable. Bam with a calf contusion and Wiggins with an ankle sprain. So just keep an eye on that. The other one is the Desar Thompson, who had a cramp in the last game. He's not on the injury report, so we escaped any serious injury there. So in addition to the names I put there, Jeremy Grant, Bam Adebayo, Andrew Wiggins, Drew Holiday, all popped up as questionable on this injury report for Friday's games. Today's episode, it is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there is no better place to get in on that action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. You can live bet throughout the game. So when you see something cracking on, you might see a big comeback about to brew. You might think that a team is set for a run or they're going to give up a lead or whatever. All those live bets are available on FanDuel. Plus, you can also combine the live bets into a same-game parlay to increase your odds. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So go to FanDuel.com and join today. That is FanDuel.com today. Join up for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. And don't forget to gamble responsibly. Okay, so let's talk about some streaming options. And again, I'll go through these names, but I will mention that when I did this and we prepared for this, that I didn't expect Cam Thomas to play, but he is available. So the Nets guys, we just take a little bit off the top. I still think they're going to be viable, by the way. Like D'Angelo is going to be out. Thomas is going to play. Thomas has played 2 games since the middle of November. So yeah, he's not going to be playing big minutes. He is not going to play big minutes. It's going to impact guys like which I always forget which Martin it is that's still in Brooklyn. I think it's Tyrese Martin. It's going to impact guys like Tyrese Martin a lot. Tosan Evbomwan, the Vulture, Reese Beekman, those sort of players. Max Lewis, who's not really even playing. And it will have an impact on Jalen Wilson and Zaire Williams and Keon Johnson and even Killian Hayes a little bit. Not that Hayes thrives through getting shot attempts, but it will just change a lot of the stuff on that squad, so be aware of that. Let's look at Yahoo Points League streaming options. We start off with a couple of those Nets guys, Keon Johnson and Zaire Williams. Yeah, there is an impact there, but I still believe that they are going to... I think Thomas will come off the bench, so I think these guys will still start, and I think they're going to have enough value and they're available in enough spots to make it make sense. The next name I have on this list is Zach Collins, who's available in a lot of spots. Now, I have no idea what is going to happen. I know that Vucevic is out. He's not going to play, right? And I think Jalen Smith might return. I don't think that Jalen Smith will now be the third string center. He could come off the bench behind Collins in this game, but I think it'd be a minute split sort of scenario maybe. And I think Smith eventually will get back ahead of Collins. The last time that they were all healthy, Collins played 0 minutes. And Smith was the backup and Vooch was the starter. So I just don't know 100% whether Jalen's going to play here. So I'll look at Collins, but Smith is absolutely worth a look as well. I've got Karis LeVert here. I've got Lonzo Ball here, who finally some shots fell and was always going to improve. He was going at like 20% from the field. And that's just an impossibly low number to be able to hold on to. So while he's not going to shoot the 60% that he shot last game, Lonzo, he's going to be somewhere in that middle range, and the minutes are relatively secure. And Dosunmu might return and have somewhat of an impact there, but I actually don't think so. We've already seen that they put Ball ahead of Dosunmu in the pecking order. The last name there is Killian Hayes, another Nets guy who, with D'Angelo Russell out, I still think he will start. I don't think Cam Thomas is going to start. I think they'll roll the same starting lineup out there. It's going to be more about Thomas getting back into action, playing 20 minutes or so, and impacting a little bits and pieces, not the overall structure of the team just yet. Not just yet. But I could be wrong on that. But last time he came back from the injury, when he pinged his hamstring again, that's how they ran it. He didn't come in and play 30 minutes. He came in off the bench, played 23-24, and was limited, got hurt again. So I think they're going to be pretty cautious here about using him. The list for ESPN points leagues is very much the same. We've got Keon Johnson and Zaire Williams, Zach Collins / Jalen Smith, assuming Smith is officially cleared and ready to go, Karis LeVert, Lonzo Ball, but the name at the bottom is different. I don't have Killian Hayes there. I'm going to go with Davion Mitchell, who is getting pretty good minutes most of the time. He's not a particularly strong option, obviously, but he does have an ability to get steals. He's not a bad assist guy. He scored well in the last game. I don't really trust it, but he's an option for us. And if you're in those deeper formats and you're just looking for someone who's available and he's a 30-minute-a-night player, he's there. He's a guy that you can take a look at. You can have a stab at it and see exactly how it might play out. I'm interested to see how they use him. I don't think he's a very good player, but there are going to be some interesting games for him. And when you're getting 35 a night, there are opportunities to put up decent enough stats. Let's come back and talk category leagues and go through the individual streaming options there. So we'll start by looking at points and threes. 6 names for you to help both of those categories. We start in Atlanta with Georgie Niang, this is again the last day for the Hawks to play this week. They're done after Friday. Niang is available in a lot of spots. He is hit or miss. He doesn't do much more than points and threes, but that's what we're looking for. So he's there. I've got the 2 Nets guys, Keon Johnson, Zaire Williams. I still think, again, I'll say it one more time. I won't say it again. One more time. I think they'll be only marginally impacted in the first game back. So don't overly panic on it yet. So they're both options. I've got Nickeil Alexander-Walker there because if DiVincenzo plays on Thursday, he probably won't play Friday. You've got a chance that Edwards is out. You know that Randle and Gobert are out. And Alexander-Walker's been playing a big chunk of minutes. So he's worth it to me under the assumption that DiVincenzo is in Thursday, out Friday. But that could flip. If DiVincenzo's out Thursday and plays Friday, I'm going to be less interested in Alexander-Walker. I've got Jordan Hawkins there without Zion Williams. That's not his name, Zion Williamson. But we will have Bruce Brown and Kelly Olynyk returning most likely on Friday. But Hawkins should be able to go from 23 to 26 minutes. I'm not really sure where BJ Boston is, whether he's ever coming back. But Hawkins, if you're never going to use him for points and threes, then why would you ever use him? This is the time or the opportunity. And the next one is Duncan Robinson, who was great in the last game. But it's Spoelstra. His rotations are all over the shop. Robinson might play 17 minutes. He might play 27 minutes. He might start. He might not. I don't know. So he's available everywhere, right? So I don't mind taking that chance on him. And I don't think he's really at risk of getting high-smithed. He will play minutes and he can always go off. And if the shots go in, then he will get extra playing time. If we look at rebounds, boards and blocks, I am putting Zach Collins there. I would have Jalen Smith at the top if I just knew that he was playing. I still don't really know which direction they're going minutes-wise, but Collins is there. Day'Ron Sharpe will move back to the bench almost certainly. Claxton's suspension was 1 game, so that's done. And I do not expect that Claxton comes off the bench behind Sharpe. If it happens, great. Then we get that value out of Sharpe, and if you've got Claxton, then you're hurting. But I really don't think that's what they're going to do. But still, in 18 to 20 minutes, Sharpe can be useful enough. I've got Karlo Matkovic there because I don't think Zion's going to play. And I don't know whether Carlo will start or not. Kelly Olynyk has been starting next to Misi, and they could put someone in else at the 3. It's just 28 minutes playing at the 4 or 3, wherever you consider Zion. He basically splits his minutes half and half. Matkovic just can get 3 to 4 extra, 5 extra minutes and be a boards and blocks guy. And then we've got a couple of really deeper league guys, the Cockroach Mason Plumlee and the Flamin' Galar Alf Stewart, both under 10% rostered. Last time we saw the Suns, Plumlee played 30 minutes and Nick Richards played 20. Will that be what they do? I don't know. We'll get another look at that on Thursday, but I feel good that Plumlee is going to play 18 to 19 minutes at least. Maybe it's 25. I'm not sure. And the last one there is Zaire Williams, who he is rebounding at a high level. He is blocking a shot a game. He's not going to be getting 3, 4, 5 blocks, but he's blocking a shot a game. And he's had a couple of double-digit rebound games as well. So it's somewhat interesting. And like I said, I don't really think Cam Thomas has any impact on that whatsoever. I said I wasn't going to do it again, but I did. Assists and steals. We're looking at some guard stats here. Chris Dunn at the top of that list. Now, Dunn's value will stay higher if Norman Powell is out, but I don't know that yet. Dunn was a little bit disappointing. He had 5, 4, and 3 last game, but he still got a steal. 3 assists and a steal is not ideal, but 5 and 3 is a possibility for Dunn. 5 and 5 is a possibility for Dunn. And that puts him at the top there. And then you've got a couple of guys who are very similar. Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso. In fact, the first 3 guys are very similar. Low-scoring players who get assists and steals, who can block an out-of-position shot and get some rebounds too. And Ball is probably going to play 29 minutes. Caruso, you don't know about, 20 minutes, 21. But this is what they do. They're available in a lot of spots, so have a look. Andrew Nembhard as well. He's not a high-volume scorer, but 7 assists and a steal, 2 steals is possible, especially if TJ McConnell is out. And then we'll go for the deeper league ones. 2 of those names we've mentioned already, Killian Hayes and Davion Mitchell. And I do think that Hayes will start again. I don't think he'll be as good as he was shooting in the last game, but 6 assists, 2 steals maybe. His steal rate has actually been really down compared to where he's been in the NBA in the past. So not to say that he's going to be due, because due is not a thing that you can rely upon. But at some point, I don't think he's lost the ability to get steals. At some point, they will come. I just don't know if it'll be this game or not, but I like to take the chance on that. And that is exactly what Davion Mitchell is. He's an assist guy. He's a steals guy. Any other sort of thing you get out of that is just got to be considered a bonus. And then lastly, we look at percentage streaming. I've got 3 field goal percentage options. Brandon Clark, Day'Ron Sharpe, Mason the Cockroach Plumlee. Are they going to take many shots? Well, some of them will. 8 shots, 9 shots, 5 shots for Plumlee, maybe. But you can get 70%, 80% games from these guys. You won't always, but you can. Free throws, it's obviously easier. Mike Conley, grade A Dick, and Aaron Nesmith, who is playing a pretty solid role for Indiana. Not someone I want to just lock in, but you can look at him for some out-of-position blocks and steals, a 3, double-digit scoring, free throw percentage. Pretty good options. And that's where we're at with Friday's games. Still a few things to be sorted, which we'll get some info during the day. We'll get more info on Thursday. The big one is going to be what happens with Thomas in Brooklyn, what happens with Bam and Wiggins in Miami, and Jaylen Brown and Drew Holiday less so, but what will open up is a lot more Sam Hauser, a lot more Al Horford in that scenario as well if those guys happen to be out, which they could be. So don't forget, get your essays writing. Tell your essay to stick it if you want. I don't care. Hit the thumb on the video, subscribe. We'll be back with a recap of all of Thursday's action later on in the day. The Saturday preview show tomorrow for category leagues. For points leagues, will stay very similar. For category leagues, we'll divert more into individual categories. So instead of doing points and threes, we'll just do points and then threes and then rebounds and then assists. So we'll get more granular, more specific for individual categories. That's how we'll do it. Starting tomorrow for Saturday and Sunday, rest of the week. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.